You see, when people talk about attraction, they often overcomplicate it. They try to reduce it down to money, looks, or status. But the truth is, the single most magnetic quality a man can ever develop, regardless of how old he is confidence. And I'm not talking about the fake kind, the arrogance, or the ego-driven bravado that some men try to parade around. I'm talking about a deep, unshakable confidence that radiates from within, one that women can sense the moment you walk into a room. That kind of confidence has nothing to do with being the best-looking guy, the richest guy, or the loudest guy. It has everything to do with how you carry yourself, how you move, and the energy you project into the world. Older men often have an edge here. Not because of the number of candles on their birthday cake, but because of the experiences they've lived through. They've already made mistakes. They've already faced rejection. They've already fallen and gotten back up enough times to know that nothing in life is permanent. Not failure, not heartbreak, not even success. And when a man reaches that place of inner calm, where he doesn't need to prove himself to anyone anymore, that's when true confidence shows up. That's when he becomes magnetic without even trying. Women pick up on this energy immediately. It's not something you can fake, because women are far more intuitive than men often give them credit for. They can sense insecurity even if you never say a word. They can read hesitation in your eyes, in your body language, in the way you speak. That's why younger men who try to bluff their way through life with loud talk and forced bravado rarely pull the kind of attraction they hope for. The energy just doesn't match. But when a man carries the weight of experience, when he no longer needs external validation to feel worthy, that's when his presence alone speaks louder than words ever could. Think about it. A man who is confident doesn't rush to impress. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't need to dominate the room to prove he exists. Instead, he can walk in quietly, and yet everyone notices. Not because he demands it, but because his calm assurance fills the space. That's the difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance shouts, but confidence whispers and still gets heard. Now, here's what makes this quality so irresistible to women. Confidence communicates safety. It tells her, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and you can trust me to lead. And trust is one of the most powerful elements of attraction. A woman doesn't want to constantly second guess whether the man standing beside her can handle life's challenges. She doesn't want to feel like she's the only one holding everything together. She wants a man whose energy says, I've got this. Not because he's controlling, not because he's overbearing, but because he's grounded in who he is. And let me tell you something, confidence doesn't come from possessions or achievements. Though those things can help, real confidence comes from competence, from knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you have the ability to adapt, to problem solve, and to rise again. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, from developing discipline, from walking through fire and realizing you survived. That's the kind of inner strength that makes a woman feel like she's not just dating a man. She's aligning herself with a force of nature. Have you ever noticed how women will sometimes say, I don't even know what it is about him, but there's just something. That something is confidence. It's the way he looks at her without flinching. It's the way he can stand tall even if everyone else in the room is doubting him. It's the way he carries silence, not as awkwardness, but as comfort. He doesn't rush to fill every gap with words because he knows his presence is enough. That is confidence in action. And here's the truth men need to hear. You don't need to be 20 years older to have it. You don't need to wait until life knocks you around to start building it. Confidence can be built today by doing the small things that strengthen your mind and your spirit, by speaking your truth even when your voice shakes, by keeping your word even when no one's watching, by showing up consistently for yourself before you try to show up for anyone else. Every time you do that, you stack another brick into the foundation of your confidence, and eventually it grows so strong that nothing and no one can shake it. When women meet a man like this, it's not about his age anymore. It's not about whether he has gray hair or smooth skin. It's about the way he makes her feel safe, desired, seen. That's the power of real confidence. It doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it invites. It doesn't have to prove, because it already is. And when a man embodies that, he never has to wonder why women are drawn to him, because the answer is written all over his presence. That's why, at the core of everything else, confidence is the ultimate key. Because it doesn't matter how much money you make, how tall you are, or how smooth your lines are. If you don't carry yourself with authentic confidence, none of it will stick. But when you do, you become unforgettable. And that is why confidence will always be more attractive than age itself. When we talk about attraction, a lot of men focus almost exclusively on the surface: looks, charm, material things, the flashy ways to get attention. But let me tell you something many men overlook: what truly keeps a woman close is not what you can show off, but how you make her feel when life isn't perfect. That's where emotional maturity comes in. And emotional maturity, my friends, is rare, which is why it's so deeply attractive when a man has it. Emotional maturity is about stability. It's about how you react when things don't go your way. It's about whether you can stay calm when life throws you curveballs or if you crumble under the pressure. Women notice this instantly because emotions set the tone of every relationship. If a man can't handle his own emotions, how can he possibly be trusted to handle hers? Older men often have the upper hand here, not simply because of age, but because they've lived through enough storms to know the difference between what's worth fighting about and what's not. They don't turn every disagreement into a war. They don't let ego drive every conversation. Instead, they've learned the power of patience, the art of listening, and the strength of restraint. And that right there is what makes women lean in. Not because they want a man who's passive, but because they crave a man who's steady. Think about how chaotic life already is. Most women are balancing work, family, personal goals, and countless responsibilities. The last thing they want is a partner who adds more instability to their lives. They don't want to feel like they're raising a grown boy who throws tantrums when things don't go his way. They don't want to constantly walk on eggshells, fearing his next outburst or mood swing. What they want is someone whose presence feels like an anchor, someone who brings calm instead of chaos. That's what emotional maturity looks like, and that's why it's so attractive. Now, let me break this down further. Emotional maturity shows up in small but powerful ways. It's in how you respond when she shares her feelings, even if they don't make sense to you. Do you dismiss her, roll your eyes, or get defensive? Or do you pause, breathe, and try to understand where she's coming from? That difference is everything. Women don't expect men to be perfect or to solve every problem, but they do expect men to listen, to respect, and to handle emotions without falling apart. It also shows in how you handle conflict. Immature men believe every disagreement has to have a winner and a loser. They argue to prove they're right, not to find a solution. But a man who is emotionally mature doesn't need to win every battle. He understands that sometimes peace is more valuable than being right. He's secure enough to apologize when he's wrong and strong enough to forgive without holding grudges. That kind of man is rare, and that's exactly why women are drawn to him. Another part of emotional maturity is self-control. When you're emotionally immature, you react immediately to everything. You lash out. You say things you can't take back. You let anger control you. But when you're mature, you master the pause. You take a breath, you think before you speak, and you respond instead of reacting. That difference not only prevents unnecessary damage, but it also shows strength. Because true strength is not about overpowering someone else. It's about mastering yourself. And women find that kind of control incredibly attractive. Now, let's talk about security. Emotional maturity creates an environment where a woman feels safe to open up, safe to be vulnerable, safe to show her softer side without fear of judgment or backlash. That safety is what allows intimacy to deepen, because at the end of the day, attraction isn't just about surface level excitement, it's about trust. And without emotional stability, trust cannot exist. Men who lack emotional maturity often sabotage their own relationships without even realizing it. They push women away with insecurity, jealousy, and unnecessary drama. They create storms and then wonder why women leave. But men who are emotionally stable do the opposite. They provide peace. They create a space where a woman feels cherished, respected, and valued. And that peace becomes addictive because in a world full of chaos, peace is priceless. Here's something powerful: emotional maturity doesn't mean you never feel emotions. It doesn't mean you're cold or detached. It means you know how to handle emotions without letting them control you. It means you can acknowledge your feelings, express them in a healthy way, and move forward without getting stuck in bitterness or rage. Women don't want robots. They want men who feel deeply, but remain steady enough to lead through the storm. And you don't need to wait until you're older to build this kind of maturity. You can start right now by taking responsibility for your actions, by practicing patience, by learning to listen more than you speak, by controlling your impulses, and by focusing on solutions instead of problems. Every step you take in mastering yourself makes you more attractive, not just to women, but in every area of life. Because when a woman meets a man who is emotionally mature, she instantly feels the difference. She feels calmer around him. She feels lighter. She feels like she can finally exhale, and that's not something she forgets. She may enjoy the thrill of someone exciting and unpredictable for a short while, but when it comes to building something real, she will always choose the man who brings stability over the one who brings chaos. That is why emotional maturity and stability are not just attractive, they are irresistible. One of the most overlooked truths about attraction is that women are not just drawn to what a man has, but to where he's going. Purpose and ambition carry a magnetic energy that no amount of money or good looks alone can replace. When a man is driven, when he wakes up every day with a fire in his soul and a clear sense of direction, that energy becomes contagious. It's the kind of energy that women want to be near because it makes them feel like they are part of something bigger than just another routine. Now, let's be clear. Purpose doesn't always mean you have to be running a multi-million dollar company or chasing world-changing goals. It can mean you are committed to mastering your craft, building your career, creating art, leading your family, or even growing yourself into the best version possible. What matters isn't the scale of your mission, but the clarity of it. A man with no purpose, no drive, no ambition feels lost, and women can sense that instantly. But a man who knows exactly who he is and what he's striving for, that's magnetic. Ambition, when aligned with purpose, shows discipline. It shows consistency. It shows a refusal to settle for mediocrity. And that matters because women don't want to attach themselves to men who are stagnant. They don't want to feel like they're dragging someone through life, constantly having to push them to grow. They want a man who is already moving, already pushing forward, already creating momentum. That momentum is attractive because it feels like progress, and progress is exciting. Think about it. When you see a man deeply committed to something bigger than himself, whether it's his work, his vision, or his personal growth, you can't help but respect him. That respect is the foundation of attraction. Without respect, there is no real connection. And women respect men who are relentless in pursuit of their goals because that drive is proof of strength. It's proof of focus. It's proof that he isn't just drifting through life, waiting for someone else to give it meaning. He is creating meaning for himself. Purpose also creates a sense of stability. A man with ambition doesn't fold easily when life gets hard because he's anchored in something deeper. He has a reason to keep going even when things fall apart. That resilience is powerful because women know life won't always be easy, and they want a partner who can push forward, not someone who collapses under the weight of obstacles. Ambition fuels resilience, and resilience creates trust. And let's talk about how purpose transforms presence. A man with a vision walks differently. He speaks differently. He carries himself with certainty. Even if he hasn't reached his goal yet, the very fact that he's on the path changes everything about his energy. You can see it in his eyes, the hunger, the determination, the unshakable belief that he's meant for more. That's what makes him compelling. That's what makes women lean in, because they're drawn to the story he's writing with his life. Now, here's the key. Women don't fall for men because of what they already have. They fall for men because of the journey they're on. A man with purpose invites her into that journey, gives her a role in something meaningful, and makes her feel like she's part of growth, not stagnation. Without purpose, the connection dries up quickly because there's nothing to build together. With purpose, the relationship feels alive, evolving, and full of possibilities. And let's not confuse ambition with arrogance. Some men chase goals just to prove they're better than everyone else. That's not attractive. It's insecure. True ambition isn't about competing with others. It's about competing with yourself, pushing your own limits, becoming better today than you were yesterday. That's the kind of ambition women respect. It's not about boasting, it's about building. You see, ambition also signals responsibility. A man with purpose is not just living for himself. He's creating value in the world, in his family, in his community. He understands that his drive impacts more than just his own life, and that sense of responsibility is incredibly attractive Because when a woman connects with a man like that, she feels secure knowing that he's not going to waste time, that he's not going to let life pass him by. She knows he's a man of action, a man who gets things done. And let's be honest, ambition is sexy because it's rare. Too many men waste their time drifting, blaming circumstances, or waiting for luck to change their lives. They settle for comfort, and then wonder why they don't inspire desire. But the man who refuses to settle, who wakes up every day chasing growth, who builds his life brick by brick with vision and discipline, that man stands out. That man doesn't need to chase women because women naturally chase him. Purpose is attractive because it creates legacy. It shows a woman that being with you isn't just about today, it's about the future. It shows her that you're not just existing, you're building. And deep down, women want to know that the man they're with is not only capable of leading himself, but capable of creating a future worth sharing. So when we talk about attraction, never underestimate the power of purpose and ambition. Looks fade, money can come and go, but the fire inside a man who knows his why, who refuses to give up, who chases his dreams with relentless drive, that fire never goes unnoticed. Women see it, they feel it, and they're drawn to it in a way that no shallow trick can ever replace. And that is why purpose and ambition are some of the most irresistible qualities a man can ever possess. Attraction is not just about excitement or chemistry. It's also about safety. And I don't just mean physical safety, although that is important. I'm talking about emotional safety, spiritual safety, and the kind of protective energy that makes a woman feel like she can finally relax. When a man embodies this energy, when he carries himself in a way that signals, "You're safe with me," it creates a level of attraction that runs far deeper than surface level interest. Now, men sometimes misunderstand this. They think being protective means being controlling, being possessive, or being aggressive in ways that push others away. That's not protection. That's insecurity disguised as dominance. Real protective energy is calm, steady, and unshackable. It's not about caging her in. It's about creating an environment where she feels free to be herself, knowing you've got her back no matter what. Women live in a world that constantly tests their safety, whether it's walking down the street, being in a crowded space, or simply sharing their emotions with someone they care about. Every day, they have to navigate situations that force them to stay alert. So when they encounter a man whose presence makes them feel they can let their guard down, that man becomes unforgettable. Because he represents something rare, peace of mind. Protective energy shows up in the way you carry yourself. It's in your body language, your tone, the steadiness in your eyes. A man who is protective doesn't have to announce it because it's felt in the way he stands, the way he pays attention, the way he reacts when something feels off. Women notice this more than men realize. They notice how you handle pressure, how you handle confrontation, how you handle the unexpected. And when you respond with strength and composure, you communicate safety without saying a word. But it's not just about physical presence. Protection is also about emotional security. Women are not just attracted to a man who can fight for them. They're drawn to a man who can fight for their heart. Someone who doesn't mock their vulnerability. Someone who doesn't weaponize their secrets. Someone who doesn't use their emotions against them in a moment of anger. That kind of protection is priceless, because when a woman knows her emotions are safe with you, she gives you a part of herself she won't give to just anyone. It's the same with consistency. Women feel protected when they know what to expect from you, when your words match your actions, when you don't disappear the moment things get difficult. Consistency is a form of security. It tells her, "Here, I'm not going anywhere. You can count on me." And that matters more than grand gestures or empty promises. A man who keeps showing up is a man who builds unshakable trust. And let's be real, protective energy also shows up in the little things. It's walking on the side of the street closest to traffic. It's making sure she gets home safe. It's checking in not because you're trying to control her, but because you genuinely care. It's defending her name when she's not in the room. It's standing by her side when life tests her, not only when things are easy. Those small actions create a sense of safety that lingers long after the moment is gone. Now, here's the beauty of it. Protective energy doesn't just benefit her, it transforms you as well. When you step into that role of protector, you start carrying yourself differently. You become more aware, more responsible, more grounded. You stop moving through life selfishly and begin moving through it with purpose. because you realize your strength is not just for you, it's for the people you care about. And that responsibility makes you more attractive, not less. Women also know the difference between men who protect out of strength and those who protect out of fear. Protection rooted in strength is confident, steady, and secure. Protection rooted in fear is jealous, controlling, and suffocating. The first builds connection, the second destroys it. That's why a man must master himself before he can truly be protective. You can't protect anyone if you're ruled by insecurity. But if you're anchored in self-respect, your protective energy flows naturally and powerfully. And this is where we return to attraction, because when a woman feels protected, she doesn't just feel safe, she feels desired, valued, and cherished. That safety allows her to step into her feminine energy fully, to be soft, to be vulnerable, to give herself in ways she never could with someone who makes her feel exposed or unsafe. And once she experiences that kind of safety with you, it's almost impossible for her to forget it. Protection is not just about shielding her from the outside world. It's also about protecting the connection itself, protecting the trust you've built, protecting the bond from outside influences, from carelessness, from neglect. A man who values the relationship enough to guard it fiercely is the kind of man a woman respects deeply, because he's not just protecting her. He's protecting the life they're building together. So understand this, women don't just open up to men who look good, who talk smooth, or who flash wealth. They open up to men whose presence makes them feel secure in every sense of the word. They open up to men who prove through their actions, not just their words, that they can be trusted to protect what matters most. And that is why protective energy and security are some of the most powerful forces of attraction a man can ever embody. One of the things that truly separates men who capture lasting attention from those who fade into the background is leadership. And let's be clear, leadership doesn't mean bossing someone around, barking orders, or trying to dominate every situation. Real leadership is about presence. It's about having the ability to step forward with clarity, to take initiative when it matters, and to create a sense of direction that others naturally want to follow. Women are deeply drawn to men who embody this kind of leadership because it signals something powerful: strength paired with responsibility. A man who leads is not a man who controls, he's a man who guides. He makes decisions with confidence, but also with care. He knows when to stand firm, and he knows when to listen. That balance between strength and sensitivity is what creates respect. And respect is the foundation of attraction. Masculine presence is the energy that backs up that leadership. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the most grounded. When a man has presence, he doesn't have to demand attention. His energy commands it. He could be silent, sitting at the back of the room, and people would still feel him. That's what women notice. Not the man who's desperate to be seen, but the man who knows he doesn't need to prove himself to be noticed. Leadership in a relationship is about creating safety, clarity, and direction. Women want to know that the man they're with is capable of steering through life's storms, not because he has all the answers, but because he doesn't fold under pressure. A man who can step up when decisions need to be made, who can think beyond the moment and see the bigger picture, is deeply attractive. Not because he takes control away from her, but because he creates a partnership where she can trust his guidance. And this is important. Leadership doesn't mean overshadowing her voice. It means valuing it. A true leader listens before he speaks. He seeks input. He considers perspectives, but at the end of the day, he has the courage to make the call and stand by it. That decisiveness is rare, and women crave it because indecision breeds insecurity. When a man can't make up his mind, when he's constantly hesitant, it sends the message that he can't be relied on. But a man who leads with clarity communicates stability. And stability, as we've already seen, is one of the deepest triggers of attraction. Leadership also shows up in the way you lead yourself. You can't guide anyone else if you don't first have command over your own life. That's why discipline, consistency, and integrity are so important. A man who can't even lead himself through his own goals, who breaks promises to himself, who avoids responsibility, cannot expect to inspire trust in a woman. But when she sees that you have mastered yourself, that you keep your word, that you stay consistent, that you hold yourself to a standard, she knows you have the foundation to lead in bigger ways. Masculine presence ties into this because it's not just about actions, it's about energy. Presence is the way you make her feel when you walk into the room. Do you bring calmness or chaos? Do you create confidence or doubt? Do you lead with your energy before you even open your mouth? Women pick up on this quickly, and it's one of the reasons older men often have an edge. Over time, they've shed insecurity, they've survived enough challenges, and they've learned to anchor themselves in calm. That's why their presence feels so different from the rest. It feels certain. But again, you don't need age to build this. You need awareness. You need the willingness to show up fully, to ground yourself in strength and purpose, and to carry that energy wherever you go. Masculine presence is not about intimidation. It's about inspiration. It's not about controlling. It's about influencing through who you are. And the deeper you cultivate this, the more naturally people, including women, are drawn to you. Leadership also builds trust over time because it proves that you're dependable. You're the one who makes plans instead of waiting for things to just happen. You're the one who takes initiative when everyone else hesitates. You're the one who says, "Follow me, I'll handle it." Not with arrogance, but with confidence. And that ability to step up is something women deeply respect because it gives them permission to relax into their own energy without always feeling like they have to carry everything themselves. It's also worth noting that masculine presence isn't about perfection. In fact, real leadership admits mistakes. It's willing to say, "I was wrong," and then correct course. That humility actually strengthens presence because it shows you're not leading out of ego, you're leading out of purpose. Women respect that deeply because it means your strength is not fragile, it's not brittle, it's real. At the end of the day, leadership and presence are about more than relationships. They shape how you move through the world. They shape how others see you, how they respond to you, and how they trust you. And when a woman encounters a man who embodies this, she feels it instantly. She feels the difference between a man who drifts and a man who leads. She feels the difference between a man who hides behind noise and a man who radiates quiet authority. And it's in that moment that attraction moves beyond the physical into something far more powerful. And that is why leadership and masculine presence will always be irresistible qualities in a man. One of the biggest misconceptions men have about attraction is thinking it's all about looks. Yes, physical appearance plays a role in that initial spark, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. And it's not the piece that keeps a woman truly invested. Looks fade, time changes appearances, and the surface will never carry enough weight to sustain real connection. What women value far more is the substance behind the appearance, the depth of character, the wisdom and the strength of integrity. That is what creates lasting desire. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't just focus on what's on the outside, but who has spent years developing what's on the inside. A man who values discipline, who values his growth, who values respect, who stands for something. That kind of man has a different glow, one that no gym membership or wardrobe upgrade alone can replicate. It's the energy of someone who knows his worth, who has taken time to build himself into a man of value. And that value doesn't just make him attractive, it makes him unforgettable. When a woman meets a man like this, she feels the difference right away. She doesn't just see him, she experiences him. The way he listens when she speaks, the way he carries himself in public, the way he treats people who have nothing to offer him. Those small details reveal far more about him than his reflection ever could. Women notice how a man respects himself, how he respects others, and whether his words line up with his actions. That's where true attraction is formed, in the consistency between who he says he is and who he actually shows up as every single day. A man who offers value beyond looks doesn't need to constantly chase validation. He's not trying to prove himself through superficial measures. He knows what he brings to the table, and he doesn't have to advertise it. His energy speaks for itself. That kind of quiet confidence is powerful because it's rooted in something real. And women can feel that depth, that authenticity in a way that cuts through all the noise. Let's be honest, the world is full of men who look good but have nothing else to offer. They might attract attention for a moment, but it doesn't last. Why? Because attraction without depth collapses quickly. But a man with wisdom, with patience, with values, with vision, he stays on a woman's mind long after the first impression fades. He doesn't just catch her eye, he holds her heart. Value beyond looks is also about emotional intelligence. It's about understanding how to communicate without shutting down or exploding. It's about being able to express yourself clearly, to hold space for her emotions without judgment, to resolve conflict without turning it into a battlefield. Those are the qualities that make a woman feel safe to open up, and once she feels that safety, her attraction deepens in ways that no physical appearance alone could ever achieve. It's also about integrity. A man with integrity is consistent whether people are watching or not. He does what he says he will do. He doesn't cut corners. He doesn't betray trust. He doesn't live a double life. Integrity builds a foundation of reliability, and reliability builds respect. And respect, once again, is the core of lasting attraction. Women are drawn to men they can admire, and admiration doesn't come from looks, it comes from character. And let's not forget wisdom. With time and experience, a man develops perspective. He sees life differently. He understands that success is not about how loudly you shout, but about how deeply you live. He becomes more grounded, more patient, more intentional. That wisdom is something women crave because it provides guidance, clarity, and reassurance. A wise man doesn't panic in chaos. He stays calm. He doesn't waste time on meaningless drama. He focuses on what truly matters. That kind of presence is like a breath of fresh air, and women are naturally drawn to it. Here's the truth: a man's true attractiveness comes from the value he adds to a woman's life. Not because he tries to buy her love or smother her with empty gestures, but because his presence elevates her. He makes her feel seen, appreciated, and understood. He inspires her to be better simply by being better himself. That's the kind of value that no physical appearance can compete with, because it leaves an imprint on her soul, not just her eyes. And when you really think about it, this is the advantage older men often have. Not because of their age alone, but because they've invested in themselves over the years. They've built their careers, developed their discipline, learned from their failures, and grown into men of substance. That kind of depth makes them irresistible to women who are looking for more than a surface-level connection. But remember, you don't have to wait until you're older to build this. You can start right now by committing to growth, by choosing discipline, by living with integrity, and by adding value wherever you go. Because in the end, attraction that lasts is never just about how you look. It's about who you are. It's about the depth of your character, the strength of your presence, and the value you bring to every space you enter. Women may notice your appearance first, but what makes them stay, what makes them open themselves fully, is the man you've become on the inside. And that is why value beyond looks is the ultimate key to lasting attraction.